Maslow's hierarchy is perhaps the most important psychological concept one can learn when it comes to understanding human dynamics. If you could only learn one thing about psychology, just one thing, it should be Maslow's hierarchy because you can extract so many insights from learning it. So here's an example of the mainstream model of the hierarchy, and I'm sure that most of us are probably familiar with this model. I think it's taught in most high schools and universities these days at one point or another, but it's pretty self-explanatory with our basic survival needs at the bottom because those are what we need first before anything else, and then once we have those needs met, we can move on to higher order, more sophisticated needs, things like having a good social standing and having a strong self-image, all the way up to self-actualization, which represents achieving one's highest potential. But when it comes to explaining the state of humanity, Maslow's hierarchy can explain a lot and provide insight into why many people and entire societies are the way they are. Maslow's hierarchy can help explain why poor countries can be so dysfunctional and why richer countries are oftentimes more functional. Because when survival is a struggle, they're going to do whatever it takes to survive, so there's much likely to be more crime in areas where people are struggling because they're willing to do anything to get by. If it's every man or every family for themselves, there isn't even a capacity to have a significant sense of love and belonging in other higher tier stuff, whereas in a more rich country where most of the citizens don't even have to think twice about their physical survival, naturally one's problems shift to the higher tiers. But this video isn't to teach you everything about Maslow's hierarchy. If you don't know anything about the hierarchy, go educate yourself on that before you watch the rest of this video, because it's important to have a good foundation of what Maslow's hierarchy is. But what I really wanted to talk about was a forgotten tier above self-actualization that Maslow added near the end of his life, but it never became mainstream because he passed away before he could ever widely publish it. And this tier that Maslow added above self-actualization is called Self-Transcendence. The tier's cognitive and aesthetic needs were also added to some models of the hierarchy, but I'll touch a little bit on this later on. But the reason Maslow wanted to make this change to the hierarchy was because self-actualization was still all about the individual and fulfilling the individual's own highest potential. So self-actualization could be something like becoming the very best athlete that one possibly can, becoming the very best father one can, or becoming the very best writer or filmmaker or artist as best as one can. And this didn't sit well with Maslow in implying that the pinnacle of human development has little to do with a deeper purpose that extends beyond one's own self, especially considering many Eastern philosophies put such a strong emphasis on transcendence. So to describe the self-transcendence tier more in depth, let me give you a quote directly from Maslow himself. Transcendence refers to the very highest and most inclusive or holistic levels of human consciousness, behaving and relating as ends rather than means to oneself, to significant others, to human beings in general, to other species, to nature, and to the cosmos. So basically, the self-transcendence tier at its core is about rising above one's own ego and relating to that which is greater than the self. To put it simply, it is the realization that you are one small part of a greater whole and you act accordingly. But it's not just saying you're aligned with a deep purpose to make your own ego feel good. This self-transcendence tier is really about making your entire life dedicated to this purpose higher than your own self. And if you've watched any other human developmental videos that include models such as spiral dynamics and ego development theory, then you'll see that all of these models have a form of self-transcendence at the top. Spiral dynamics has the tier 2 stages, yellow and turquoise, and then EDT has the post-conventional stages. So it's not like only Maslow is coming up with the idea that the pinnacle of human development is self-transcendence. No, it's literally all human developmental psychologists are coming to this conclusion that the most developed and most actualized humans are the ones who care the least about their own ego and the most about issues outside of their own self. And that's why I make these videos, because I want to inspire people to be the greatest person they possibly can. I want people to not be lost in their own egos and actually working towards creating a better, more loving, more conscious, more united humanity because, well, there's literally nothing better you could do with your life than doing this work. And that's also why I talk about spirituality. I think at this point you can see the connection between self-transcendence and spirituality because, well, spirituality is all about expanding your own consciousness beyond the self. It's about getting your awareness out of your ego bubble. But if you want to use Maslow's revised hierarchy as a model for your own development, don't just try to make the jump to self-transcendence right away. Don't think, oh my God, I must reach the pinnacle of human development as fast as possible. Because when you try to do that, you're not only lying to yourself, but you're also creating a massive shadow in your psyche because you're just ignoring needs that aren't being met. So here is the model of Maslow's revised hierarchy again. So I think it's a safe thing to say that most people watching this video have the bottom two tiers met. Otherwise, I doubt you would be watching this. But then the next two tiers, love and belonging and esteem, are also crucial that many of us don't feel fully great about, I'm sure of. And if you have terrible relationships with your family, or you feel terrible about your own self-image, obviously that's going to create gaping wounds in your psyche that will bring you a lot of suffering and hinder your development. And you can see that the bottom four tiers are called D needs, which stands for deficiency needs. So basically what that is saying is that these D needs are your base. And if you have this solid base, access to food, water, shelter, etc., along with a loving family and friends and good relationships and a solid self-image, you can shift your primary focus to these higher four tiers, which are the tiers all about growing yourself. So cognitive needs refers to the need humans have to increase their intelligence and their knowledge and just pursue and learn about the things they find interesting in life. And then you have the aesthetic needs, which Maslow refers to as the need for beauty. So this could come in a variety of forms: getting out in nature, expressing your creativity through art or writing or something like that. It could also be something like bodybuilding and creating the most aesthetically pleasing body as possible. The possibilities here are endless, but I do certainly agree with Maslow that pursuing beauty in one form or another is most definitely a human need. I think we do this every day subconsciously. We all want it, even if we don't consciously realize. And then you have self-actualization, which is fulfilling one's highest potential, which we already talked about, and then onto self-transcendence, which we also kind of already talked about. But also remember, guys, and as one of my favorite authors, Peter Ralston, says, the map is not the territory, so don't take the model literally. Don't follow this model 100% thinking it's the exact way that will lead you to your pinnacle. Development never actually happens like any model says it will, but models can certainly give you guidelines, so use Maslow's hierarchy as a guideline. There are some activities that I recommend for helping you move closer towards self-transcendence, with the most important one being meditation, specifically establishing a meditation habit that you do every single day. Because what this does is it teaches you to distance yourself from the ego mind, your own ego, so you don't get lost in it in everyday life. And another one is reading, specifically reading things that are outside of your own bubble. Taking in new perspectives will expand your worldview, and that really makes you realize that you're just one human in a sea of humans, and your own individual self really isn't that important at the end of the day in the grand scheme of things. So hopefully from that'll make you want to work towards a cause that helps the greatest amount of people possible. And also another thing you can do is travel. A lot of us don't have the means to do this, but traveling to foreign countries, specifically more poor countries, can also help a lot with learning new perspectives and expanding your worldview. Shadow work is also extremely important, which is basically just healing the wounds in your psyche that you've accumulated throughout life. There's a number of ways to do this, and I won't get into that here, but if you want to watch an in-depth video on how to expand your consciousness, check out my video, 7 Methods on How to Expand Your Consciousness. I'll probably leave a card above or a link below in the description or something. But yeah, guys, this self-transcendence tier is what I really wanted to show you guys. With all these models of development videos I've been making with Maslow, spiral dynamics, ego development theory, I've really wanted to emphasize that your highest potential lies in transcending beyond your own self, beyond your own ego, because I know the more people that begin to do this, the better off humanity will be. 95, probably more like 98% of humanity is swimming in ego, and they don't know anything different, and they're completely unaware of anything beyond. So that's why humanity is so divided. So use this video and check out my other videos too to help expand your consciousness and move closer towards that self-transcendence tier. All right, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, the map is not the territory. Don't take this model or any other model of development too seriously. Just use it as a guideline. If you wish to support my work on a deeper level and have a few extra dollars to shell out each month, I do have a Patreon. We also have a book club on there as well, where we read one book each month about topics we go over on this channel. Last month, we read A New Earth, Awakening to Your Life's Purpose by Eckhart Tolle. And this month, we are reading Pursuing Consciousness, the Book of Enlightenment and Transformation by Peter Ralston, who I quoted earlier in the video. So if any of this interests you, consider joining. And that's it, guys. Follow me on Instagram as well, and have a great day, and peace.